The casualness in Amanda Stone's tone made my mandibles twitch with irritation as the three humans entered the Warriors' Tavern. Behind her stood Jackson Hayes, a mountain of a man by human standards, though still diminutive compared to most of us. His eyes scanned the room like targeting systems, and his loose stance screamed readiness for action. His arms were adorned with intricate tattoos, ancient battle scenes etched into his skin. The third human, Marcus Turner, seemed unremarkable at first glance, average height, average build, but his eyes told a different story. They were the eyes of someone who had stared into the void between stars and lived to tell the tale. As the humans settled at the bar, 2 seats down from me, the other warriors instinctively shifted away, creating a bubble of empty space around them. "Heard this was where the real warriors hang out?" Hayes rumbled, his voice low and steady. I couldn't help but laugh, the sound echoing off my exoskeleton. Real warriors? This establishment has hosted veterans of the Hive Wars, survivors of the Quantum Crusades, and champions of 1,000 battles across space and time. What could soft skins like you possibly know about real warfare? The humans exchanged glances, not nervous ones, but amused. Stone turned to me, sipping her whiskey with a calm that unnerved me. Interesting choice of words from someone who's never faced a human in actual combat, she said, her voice cutting through the now silent tavern. I bristled, my pride flaring. "I've fought beings that would make your species curl up and beg for mercy," I declared, my combat reflexes tingling. "Creatures that could tear through battleship hulls with their bare appendages. Warriors who, yeah," Turner interrupted, his soft, almost gentle voice somehow more infuriating than a shout. "We've all got war stories. The question is, do you want to hear some real ones?" The nearby warriors chittered nervously, knowing my reputation and what happened to those who dared interrupt me. But before I could respond, Stone leaned forward, her scarred face catching the purple light of the tavern. "Tell you what," she said, her voice dripping with challenge. "We'll trade story for story. You might learn something about why the older races warn their children about crossing paths with humans." My pride demanded I put these presumptuous humans in their place. How impressive could their war stories be? They were barely 2 centuries into space travel, their bodies fragile, their technology primitive compared to most spacefaring races. "Very well," I said, my mandibles clicking in anticipation. "But don't you expect me to be impressed by tales of your little skirmishes and border disputes?" Stone's smile was predatory, reminding me of a creature I'd once faced in the death pits of Zork's Prime. "Oh, don't worry," she said. "We'll start small. Just a little story about the Battle of New Damascus." Little did I know, that moment marked the beginning of the most unsettling night of my long, battle-filled life. Amanda Stone swirled her whiskey, the amber liquid catching the tavern's purple light. Her eyes seemed to focus on something far beyond the weathered bar surface. "New Damascus," she began, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality that made my antenna vibrate uncomfortably. "Ever heard of concrete crackvor?" "No, it's this primitive building material we humans use. Mix some rocks and powder, add water, and you've got something that can last centuries. New Damascus had a lot of it. By the time we were done, every single block of it had a story to tell." I shifted on my perch, trying to appear unimpressed. "Primitive materials for primitive warriors," I scoffed. But Stone just smiled. "The Ravager Corps thought the same thing when they invaded. Their quantum shields and plasma cannons against our concrete and steel. They expected the city to fall in hours." She paused, her gaze locking onto mine. "It stood for 9 days." The tavern fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. For the first time in centuries, I felt a flicker of doubt. These humans, with their fragile bodies and primitive technology, had a story to tell, and I was beginning to realize it might be one I couldn't ignore.